If you really wanted to cut spending, if you really wanted to get the deficit and the debt under control, you should be going after bigger areas such as the defense budget.
They fundamentally mismanaged and in some respects caused the pandemic by their own research for gain-of-function research.
14 Republican senators say you're risking, quote, undermining critical research and, quote, could threaten Americans' ability to access better treatments.
I have a CNN interview for us to jump into between Jake Tapper and MAGA budget director and Project 2025 author Russ Voight as he attempts to defend this chaotic and failed second Trump administration and their economic vision. So if you can, leave us a like on the video. It helps us out a ton. It gets us out there in the algorithm, helps us out more than you can know. We really appreciate it. And let's get right to the discourse.
If you really wanted to cut spending, if you really wanted to get the deficit and the debt under control, you should be going after bigger areas such as the defense budget. What's your response to that criticism?
I think it's unfair criticism. I think you got to take a multifaceted approach. The one big beautiful bill reduces deficits. It had $1.5 trillion in mandatory reforms. Those are the structural programs.
But the GAO and the CBO says it's going to actually increase the deficit.
No, CBO was using artificial baselines that treat spending as eternal and tax relief that was in law since 2017 to be temporary. And so if you adjust for that, and the bill does have additional tax relief, of which we paid for with spending reductions, this bill reduces deficits and will help us with the national debt.
This is demonstrably false, like on its face, but let's just put in perspective what he's really saying here, because it's not even just the CBO, even though the CBO has a long history of accurately predicting these things and did so with the 2017 tax cuts, of which the bulk of this bill is just renewing, but it's also the Yale budget model, the Wharton model, the Tax Foundation, the GAO, literally all budget analysis, all economic models or economic analysis of this indicates it increasing our deficits. This is why they removed the deficit ceiling, by the way, and adding massively to the debt. Yet they want to say that all of these are wrong. All of these are fake news. They're all woke liberals, and instead believe the White House that not a single independent source agrees with, and that miscalculated the 2017 tax cuts by multiple percents. Like they were not even close.
When you talk about the tariff revenues that are coming in, $3 trillion, CBO believes the same numbers that we have. And again, those are in advance of a number of the trade agreements that we're talking about over the next several weeks. So we're making big moves, and I think the country is going to come alongside of us and see the progress that we're making.
Quickly, if you could, I want to ask you about some medical research funding that the White House is withholding right now from the National Institutes of Health. 14 Republican senators say you're risking, quote, undermining critical research and, quote, could threaten Americans' ability to access better treatments. Will you allow that funding to go through at the NIH?
We're going through the same programmatic review of the NIH that we did on education funding.
So then we're screwed if that's the case, because with education funding, they cut the Department of Education, which literally guarantees quality education to those with intellectual disabilities and those in poverty or just above the threshold, objectively critical programs. So if we're doing the same at the NIH, good luck, America. Also, what are we talking about with tariffs? I hate that these people say things and literally just hope that you don't understand economics. Like if you took a 1000 level economics course, you would understand how stupid this is. That's base level college economics, right? Not like tariff, the revenue, first off, not to mention the revenue that we're going to get from tariffs is crumbs compared to the revenue lost from tax cuts. But tariffs themselves also just generate less revenue for an economy. They lower supply as companies bring in less imports, while also raising the price of the goods they do import to offset the cost. This together creates lower velocity of money. Again, basic 1000 level econ principle. He's just hoping you guys don't know this. Velocity of money is the amount or the rate at which money exchanges hands from consumers and businesses. The higher that is, that creates more points of taxation. So tariffs create less points of taxation, thus less revenue, and also puts a larger tax burden necessary to fill that gap. But yeah, guys, just wait and magically tariffs will start to make the economy boom. Like these people do everything off of vibes. There's no actual economic analysis or logic here. It's just believe Trump.
NIH is a program that if they were a company that went through the last pandemic, their stock prices would be in shambles. I mean, they fundamentally mismanaged and in some respects caused the pandemic by their own research for gain-of-function research. Now, put that aside for a second. Now you have waste, fraud, and abuse of funding, injecting dogs with cocaine and studying the impacts of it, giving money to Harvard to study lizards being blown off of branches by leaf blowers. Every step of the way, you have fundamental DEI across the board. There's literally
I don't think that's what the Republican senators are
You
talking
literally
about,
have an entire institute that does nothing more than DEI research at NIH.
You think that's what the Republican senators want funding for?
At this point, these people genuinely think they can just say whatever absurd thing and their base will just believe it. And by God, it pains me to say they're absolutely correct. They've cultivated the perfectly unintelligent base that somehow also views skepticism, or blind skepticism, I should say, as critical thinking. And it's annoying, right? The NIH does not have a DEI department. They have a civil rights department for their workforce. But to the right, who wants racism instituted at all of these agencies, even that is too woke. The lizard leaf blower study that he's talking about here, as if it's like pointless, was a 2017 paper about natural selection and testing the evolutionary traits of these specific lizards. Evolutionary biology is literally pivotal to immunology, to the creation of vaccines, these kinds of things. A lot of medicine hinges on evolutionary biology, but of course, this idiot doesn't know that. And no, the NIH their research had literally nothing to do with the pandemic. This dude is again just doing the ascientific COVID was made in a lab nonsense. We've walked through this in depth in multiple videos. I won't turn this into a 3-minute rant, but the genealogy of the virus makes it quite literally, I won't say impossible, but it's practically impossible to have been created in a lab. It is super unlikely. It is like, in the same way that we say evolution is real, you know, and that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, science also thinks that the zoology of this virus was natural, right? It both does not have any of the lab markers you would expect from a synthetically created virus, but it also matches the natural evolutionary biology of what we see in the virus in bats. They're literally going to defund our cancer research and say it's because COVID was made in the lab. Like, that is the point of stupidity we're at in this country, as half the country cheers it on because they're like, yeah, COVID was made in a lab and it's woke. Like,